All right, hi everybody, John Meadows here. I just finished a leg workout. We're in the barn, sweating, but I will always make time to make videos for you. So I want to do a quick video today on training myths. Now, I tried to think about myths that could be debatable, things that we could argue about, because there's some myths like, a woman lifts the weights and she gets real bulky, or lightweight tones you. Like, there's a lot of myths like that. That's a waste of our time. I think we all know that stuff's not true, but I wanted to do some things that might be a little bit more controversial. So there's three things I want to cover today. I want to cover range of motion, log books, and training explosively. Those are the three things I really want to cover. So I think this is good for dialogue. Anyways, so that's what we're going to cover. Let's get to number one. Okay, number one is something that's probably more near and dear to my heart than most of you all, because I work with athletes. But a lot of the athletes I work with, I have them train explosively. And a lot of bodybuilders that I work with, or people trying to gain muscle, I have an explosive component to what they do. And what I see a lot of people saying is, you're lifting the weight too fast, everything needs to be slow tempo. And there is a time and a place for good controlled tempo. And I would say this, you always want to be controlled, specifically in the eccentric part of an exercise. But I believe that training explosively does make sense on many different exercises. For example, a squat. I think coming down with good controlled form and driving up as hard as you can is a good thing. I think on an incline bench press, lowering the weight under control and driving the bar up as fast as you can, I think can be a really good thing. Even on a leg curl. Sometimes I do leg curls and people say, why are you exploding so much on a leg curl? Well, the reason why, there's a couple different reasons. Number one, I just am generally more fast twitch. But when you use as much force as possible, so when you push a weight as hard as you can, you simply activate more motor units. You simply activate more muscle fibers. This is why when you think about something like a vertical leap, you actually activate everything. Slow twitch, fast twitch, low threshold motor units, high threshold motor units, whatever you want to call, to produce that much force and that much velocity, you just simply have to put all your effort into it. Now, you don't have mechanical tension, so you're not going to grow. So you're not going to stand here and jump up and down and get big legs. But you get great recruitment. And I think great recruitment is where kind of bodybuilding starts. You get great recruitment, then you use a weight that allows for proper mechanical tension. And then those of you who aren't afraid to push and aren't afraid to accumulate too much fatigue, then you work hard, and that's the recipe for muscle growth, specifically advanced athletes, intermediate to advanced. So when you push a weight explosively, you're activating more motor units. Now, you might say, well, John, you just got to go heavy. Yeah, when you're heavy, you can do that. But if you're always going heavy, good luck to your joints. I'll look for your message in 6 months when you tell me you're injured. So I do believe there are some exercises that you can do explosively. If you look at the way I structure my training, generally speaking, the second lift I do is more kind of compoundish in nature. Not always, but it's more explosive in nature. I feel that your body's warmed up, it's primed, it's ready to go and ready to explode. And I just think not only does it produce better athletes, I think it produces great results for bodybuilders. So that's point number one. Number two is full range of motion. So there's a thought out there that everything you do has to be full range of motion. Now, honestly, when I hear that, I just kind of shake my head, because there's, just like with anything else, there's a lot of nuance to making these black and white statements. That's like when I hear that, I think people say you got to go heavy all the time, or you can go light all the time, or there's always nuance involved. So a lot of components here. So partial reps. So first of all, people always like to start quoting studies. Well, you can look at Schoenfeld's stuff. Brad did a meta-analysis. He pulled a bunch of studies out that didn't meet his criteria. 6 studies left. Evidence was pretty good that you should use a full range of motion for lower body. Upper body's a little questionable. There's a lot of questions about the studies even then. For example, the partial range of motion, if it's a squat. A quarter squat at the top versus a half squat at the bottom. They're both partials. Do they both produce the same results? No. If you want to train adductors, working that bottom half might be a good idea. All right, so there's a lot of nuance involved here. Now, let me give you some examples. Would you tell a powerlifter to not do pin presses or board presses? If you would tell them that, you're probably not very bright, because powerlifters are using a specific range of motion to develop strength this specific part of the range of motion. I've trained with Louis Simmons and many of the best powerlifters in the world. A lot of stuff they do is to strengthen yourself in a particular range of motion. So to tell someone, to tell a powerlifter that a partial range of motion isn't any good, you're just foolish. What about partials in terms of bodybuilding? So one of the things that I have done for my hamstrings that made the biggest difference was doing full range of motion, and then when the muscles are fatigued and I can no longer do a full range of motion, doing a partial range of motion. So a partial range of motion is a great way to extend a set. Now a lot of people won't do it. Oh, it hurts too much, burns too much pain. And those are guys that'll probably never hit their genetic peaks because at some point you just got to work hard and push. You can do that with a lot of exercises. A bicep curl. You can go to a full range of motion to failure and then throw in some partials. Try it. Do 8 reps where you fail and then try 6 partials where you only come up halfway. Tell me that's not effective. So partials for me, like for hamstrings and things like that, have made just a great change in my body. Now, do you do them all the time? Of course not. Strategically place them in your workout. They are hard, they are tough, they can make you pretty sore. So you've got to be wise about how much of that stuff you do. But a little bit of it sprinkled in is really good. Now, what about structures? So squats is a good example. Every time I post a video of squatting, I get a lot of comments that say, well, you're not going butt to grass. No, I'm not, because you know what happens when I do? My lower back hurts really bad the next day. And trust me, I know how to squat. I'm actually built to squat. I have a short femur, I have a wide pelvic girdle. Not everybody's built to squat. Some people have really long femurs, really long spines. We're not all built the same. Now, if I'm on a pendulum squat or hack squat, you will see that I go all the way down rock bottom. That's because my back is protected. But if you're so dogmatic, you say, John, you're just messing up those squats. I don't know what to tell you. I get the full range of motion in on other exercises. I still love squats. There's still a lot of benefit. So part of it's going to be structures. It's somebody's, their injury history, what they can safely handle. So just to blanketly say everybody should squat rock bottom, I don't think is a good idea. I just don't. I think you're making a black and white call. So in general, I do want to say this. I do believe that a full range of motion in general should be the way you train. Now, if you're familiar with my training, you know that toward the end of my workouts, the 3rd, 4th exercise is usually something that I say in my training goals. It's to train from a stretched position. So it might be a stiff-legged deadlift for hamstrings. It might be a big machine fly for chest. It might be a really deep hack squat for my vastus lateralis for quad sweep. So I do believe in a full range of motion, but I just think it's wrong to say everybody on every set of every exercise should use a full range of motion without seeing all the other benefits. I'll give you another example. Back when I used to have big shoulders, I got them from doing a lot of heavy partial side laterals. Now I see a lot of people kind of butchering it and not doing it the way I originally taught it, but a heavy weight for high reps on partials absolutely shocks the heck out of your shoulders. They're not used to using a heavy weight and even coming up, a 1/3 of the weight. So there's many different examples I could give you. I've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of people over the last 10 years say that these things have helped. So long story short, using a full range of motion is great, but there are also very strategic ways when you get more advanced that you can use partial reps to enhance your training even more. Number 3 is a logbook. A lot of people will say, I didn't hit any PRs today, I didn't beat the logbook, so I didn't really have a good workout. Today was a failure. And that is absolute baloney. For your muscle to grow, here's what it needs. It needs activation, it needs mechanical tension, and it needs some level of exhaustion. So if you do that, let's say you do 315 for 8 on a squat. Let's say 2 weeks before you did 315 for 9. Let's say this week you did 315 for 8. But that 8th rep was really, really hard, and you did it with perfect form. So are you saying that was a waste of time? Because I will also tell you this. Those consistent hard workouts over a long period of time is eventually what gets you to your genetic potential. At some point in time, you're not going to hit PRs every time. It's not going to happen. You're not going to raise your bench press 5 pounds I feel crazy even having to say this, but there's so many people out there that are saying you have to have a logbook. I think if you're a beginner, a logbook is fantastic. I think if you're an intermediate, a logbook can be fantastic. But when you get past those stages, it's more about the intensity, the tension, pushing yourself. As long as you're doing that, what else can you do, right? So if you were way stronger one week and you did a PR, but you still had a lot of reps in the tank, versus you went as hard as you could go, almost to failure, which one would be better? I would even argue the second one's better. You push yourself harder. So the logbooking, again, I mean, it's great if you're a beginner and intermediate. I just don't see a lot of benefit for guys who are advanced. Maybe if you pick a couple exercises. If you're just tracking your weight, that's fine. But if you have them, I should clarify that. If you're tracking your weight, that's fine. But if in your mind you're thinking, if I don't get a PR, this workout was a waste of time, as a failure, that's where you're making the mistake. All right, that's where the mistake is made. So anyways, those are the three things I wanted to talk about. Those three things are probably debatable, could spur some really good discussion. I'm okay if you disagree with me. I'm okay if you yell at me. That's just how I feel about those three things. So I appreciate you listening as always. I hope you're all doing very well. And I'm gonna go get a bite to eat from that leg workout. Still tired. I'll see you next time.